Welcome to another episode on City Dice Network with myself, CT, and Danny. Danny, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's the end of the season, and we're here to talk all about it. It's going to be an interesting episode. We're going to talk mainly on the Premier League. We're going to recap the English Premier League season, and I'm here to get your take, Danny, on everything that you observed or your biggest takes from the English Premier League this 2025-2026 season. As well, I would say it was a fantastic season. Some people would say the champions were boring, but we'll get more into it and then you can give your take about this Champions League. We're going to start. The league just ended and Arsenal have been crowned champions. So there's no better way to start than the champions of England and the English Premier League. After years of knocking on the door, being second for a long time, as some people would say, Arsenal finally gets to win the English Premier League after 22 years. And Mikel Arteta's project, you would say, the Premier League finally got to the pinnacle of it in the Premier League for the first time as the manager. Let me get your take, Danny. What do you think about Arsenal lifting and being the champions of England?
Yeah, I think as you rightly mentioned, it is like poetic justice for Arteta. Actually, because when he started, I think somewhere 2020 or 2021, everybody had doubts. Why would Arsenal move from a proven winner like what's this guy's name? The guy with Unai Emery. Why do you move from Unai Emery to the second man from a different team, which was at the time when Arteta was the assistant coach
right?
to Pep. So we all had our doubts, and naysayers said what they had to say, largely because, again, you don't move from a proven winner like Unai Emery to Arteta if you do not see something in him. The winning that happened like this at the end of this season, for me, is more of a win for the ownership of the club, and less. I give Arteta his credits as well, but everything, or at least a lion's share of the praise, goes to the ownership. Because if the question now becomes, what did you see? And even when you brought him on, he came eighth 2 times in a row, right? And under normal circumstance, almost every elite club won't entertain that. You'll be sacked. But they kept faith. He moved from eighth to fifth, and then all the way to second, first. Whilst we are giving the ownership praise, we come back to Arteta. The progress has been astronomical. It's been evident for all of us to see. We've seen an evolution of a manager right before our eyes. And it's very beautiful to see, because the last time we saw something of that kind was maybe Pep Guardiola from the Barca B to Barca A. I'm not comparing the two in terms of magnitude, because Pep did madness with the Barca team. But in terms of progression and what the modern game seems to be lacking when it comes to ownership and faith in management, Arteta and this Arsenal board, and then this eventual winning of the Premier League, embodies almost everything that seems to be a lost recipe in the game today. So for me, it was a crowning moment for Arteta, and it is well deserved. People can say what they want to say about the play style and everything in between, from the PGMOL trying to give favorable decisions in favor of Arsenal and what have you. But if we are all to scrutinize our individual seasons, there are always, the beautiful thing about the game is when the calls go in your favor, you are happy. When it goes against you, you are going to nag. So there's nothing new under the sun in that regard. But all in all, Arsenal are deserved winners. They were on top of issues from the beginning of the season all the way to the end. Yes, they flapped the alliance a little and let Man City in at some point, but they still stuck to their guns and then played as though they are gunning for something, and clearly their faith were paid back in that regard. So Arsenal are deserving winners, and they deserve all the credits that comes with winning the Premier League.
Yeah, as someone that picked Arsenal to win the league this year, there's not much for me to say other than I'm ecstatic that they won the league. There's no greater injustice, in my opinion, that would have happened than Manchester City finding a way to win this Premier League. I have no other way to say. At the end there's more relief, but I'm absolutely excited Arsenal did get to win. The one thing I would ask you to maybe expand on before we kind of look at other big storylines in the English Premier League last season would be on the criticism about Arsenal maybe not deserving the league, playing a style of football that's not enjoyable to watch, getting calls in terms of being extremely physical on set pieces as a team. What would you say about Arsenal as a team and that criticism that came with their league?
Well, again, I think I hinted on that briefly in my first submission, that the one thing that has been a problem with the league has been uniformity in decision calling. when it comes to officials, right? One thing might pass in one game and won't pass in another. So that inconsistency oftentimes would always leave room for criticisms. So Arsenal being under the microscope in that regard is not out of place, largely because they were the team to beat. So if you are the team to beat, we assess almost everything to a fault and with a microscopic lens, largely because everybody wants you to fall, right? The critiques and everything in between, they are normal. It's part of the game. When I remember the days of Mourinho when Chelsea was winning, people were critiquing the Chelsea team as well, that Chelsea plays ultra defensive and blah 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 blah. But then all that matters is winners win, losers complain. So there's always going to be instances where people would complain about the nature in which some games were won. But I won't put that blame squarely at the feet of Arsenal, because if the officials are to do their job, don't have the ripple effect of how things played out with how Arsenal managed some of their games and then got some of their goals. So it would be misplaced to blame Arsenal entirely and not look at the officiating and look at the PGMOL for how lax things were in terms of the interpretations of the rules of the game and how it's played out. And in terms of how Arsenal's style of play was or has been, you ask yourself, if you've been at a particular job for 6 years and you are entering into what many touted as your make or break season, you would want to find a way to win. And one thing we have to give Arteta credit for is Arteta can play in different ways. We've seen it. And again, as I said, we've seen an evolution of a manager over a span of 5 to 6 years. When he came eighth, when they were getting into their flow and then they became second, Arsenal was playing champagne football. Fantastic football as we've always known them to be. But what were people saying? The same critics were saying it is not the champagne football that we are looking for. Win something, right? So it always comes back to you can't please everybody. If you do it, you'll be damned if you do it. You'll be damned if you do not. So just find a way to get over the hump, right? And winning this is going to be very huge, at least per how we are seeing it, for the psychological block that has been grappling Arsenal over the past couple of years. They were the laughing stock, and I didn't even want them to win, right? Because this is a club that is objectively bigger than Chelsea, right? So if a club, yes, in England, they are bigger than Chelsea. There's no way around it.
With how many Champions League victories?
No, that's what I'm saying. In England, I know almost every time this conversation comes up, people mention Champions League, and it's okay. But Arsenal has won 14 league titles. Chelsea has 6. They have 14 FA Cups. Chelsea has 8. They have,
Well,
yes. So that's what I'm saying. In
8.
England, the top 3 teams in terms of stature, pedigree, and trophies. Arsenal, it's Manchester United, Liverpool. You can have the 2 of them interchangeably. Arsenal, these top 3.
Arsenal.
Chelsea,
You see, that's why people didn't want Arsenal to win this.
No, that's what I'm telling you. Arsenal has a
total. Didn't want Arsenal to win this Premier League. Suddenly, Arsenal can go back to history.
No, again, we can fight it all we want, right? But then factually, because in Europe, Arsenal has no pedigree. So I won't compare Arsenal to Chelsea in Europe in any way, because Chelsea has 9 European titles. Arsenal has 1, the Cup Winners' Cup. So in Europe, there's no competition. There's no conversation to be had. But domestically, that is one thing I've gone off tangent here, but let me wrap up. That's one thing I hate about Chelsea, where we've gone to domestic finals 7 times in a row. We've lost all of them. These are things that count for your pedigree domestically. If you're not winning them, then what are you? That is why one thing I always give credit to Mourinho and even Pep for was they did not play with the Carabao Cup. They loaded the Carabao Cup, because you have to start from somewhere. And that was even one of the critiques that Arteta was getting. That if you're not getting the big one, beat the mental block by bringing a winning feeling into the team, by winning the Carabao and the FA Cups, right? Because that gives the team, it builds their psyche that, okay, we've won before. So this is not a new terrain. But then everything has worked out for him. He won the biggest domestically, and we have to give him praise for that. So the critics will always have their critiques. Even Prime Barcelona was critiqued for being boring at some point. So criticisms will always be there. But what matters the most is getting over the hump, and that is what Arteta did this season.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree. The goal is to win the English Premier League. You hit your goal, and that's the goal.
Exactly.
There are many ways to get there, but the goal is the goal. If you want to win the Premier League, there are many ways to play soccer, and there are many ways to actually achieve the goal. If the goal remains the goal, there has to be credit given for that. If not, everybody is going to actually get there if they could all figure it out. So yes, congratulations to Arsenal fans. After 22 years, they can say they are champions of England. This is a club that has, as you mentioned, won several English Premier League trophies. 22 years without one seems like a really, really long time. I'm actually happy for them, considering the other options that could. have won the league. So we're going to go to the team that I'm actually excited that did not actually get to win the league. And the big news out of Manchester City is Pep Guardiola has confirmed that he is leaving Manchester City. Before I let you dive into the legacy of Pep Guardiola in Manchester City, I would go ahead and remind everyone listening that he is leaving before the 115 charges is dropped. And if you know me very well on this channel, I want to actually say that this guy is a strategic mastermind, not necessarily a soccer mastermind as he is famously always regarded. No, I wouldn't say that he doesn't understand football, hasn't done great things with the style of play and stuff like that. I don't find it exceptionally impressive compared to other top coaches. But I just wanted to mention that just so everybody knows, June 20, sometime in June, July is the first expected news. There's no other, for me, I have to mention this. I have never seen an investigation take this long. This is what happens when you have lawyers and people you can throw and waste time. If you get it, you get it. If you don't get it, you don't get it. Chelsea got their punishment. It was quick. Look at the championship. Whenever they investigate teams, the results actually come out quickly. I don't know if they're going to be found culpable or not. I'm just saying this took really long. I'm very confident for Pep Guardiola to leave just before first information is dropping about it. But I'll let you get into it. He is, for lack of a better way to explain it, no matter what I think about him, he has made the Premier League exciting. He has added his own flair to the game. It's appreciated in that form. But I would say that the number of trophies as an excuse, as an explanation of how great he is always bothered me, because I don't necessarily think the competition or the circumstances was fully accounted for. But I'll let you get into the legacy of Pep Guardiola, what you think is going to happen with Man City. I think reports say Enzo Maresca might be up to take that job. What a tough life. Come take the Chelsea job when it's tough, and now you want to go take the Man City job when I expect, in my opinion, might be a tough job as well. But what do you think about Manchester City first, finishing second for this year, not doing much in Europe? Well, it's common. One Champions League in Man City. Well, that's another conversation. But what do you think about Pep Guardiola's legacy, leaving Manchester City, and also how Man City did this year in the English Premier League?
Okay, I think Manchester City and Pep, I always say if the stretch of accomplishments that Pep was able to achieve in 10 years, because he won 20 trophies. If he was my coach, I'll be kissing the floor he walks on. Because that would make, if he had been Chelsea's manager within those time periods, that is from when he came in up until now, Chelsea would have been by far the most decorated club in England. So that
No, he couldn't have coached Chelsea anyway. Chelsea doesn't have Arab money. And Abramovich was sent back in the middle. He can't stand those conditions. That's the thing with
again,
Pep, right?
no. I think I really get the criticism about money and everything, but
No,
every modern coach gets money.
No, they don't get the kind of money Pep gets. They don't get the kind of money Pep gets.
What is the variance? What is the difference between how much Pep has spent, let's say only at Man City, right? Yeah. How much he has spent, and then how much Clearly has spent since they came 4 years ago.
There is a huge difference. Also, the position of the club.
Pep has spent 2.5 billion since he moved to City in the 2-year period. Clearly has spent 2.3 billion, and we are not seeing anything.
But that's a short period. There's something about foundation. Before Pep came, Man City were spending on Carlos Tevez, we are spending on Robinho, we are spending ridiculous. Mancini just won the league before Leicester won the league. There's a difference in the setup of it. Chelsea has gone through a Frank Lampard period where they had a transfer restriction. That's actually massive.
But Clearly took over 2 years after we won the Champions League. So if we are going to talk about team success, even Chelsea was a bigger success than Man City when Pep came in. Okay. Chelsea was a way bigger success, and we were known for splashing the cash.
Well, they didn't push 115 charges till he leaves, so that it's not on his name.
Again, these are ad hominems. These are side shots. Let's talk about the essence.
They are absolutely side shots. I don't even argue that they are not side shots. They are absolute side shots. I only have a problem when he's compared to other managers. I don't have a problem calling the number of trophies, but I only have a problem when there is, if in fact on the last day of the Premier League, I couldn't hear enough of it. I had to turn off and mute the television. Best manager we've ever seen in our time. Oh, greatest manager. Oh. I'm like, goodness gracious.
No, it is not out of place, because even if we want to do things retrospectively, because oftentimes the comparison now becomes what he has done and what previous managers have done. One of the biggest checkbook managers of his time was Sir Alex Ferguson. People don't talk about it as much because, he had a class of 1999. I didn't start coaching in 1999. This man bought Rio Ferdinand for 43 million in 2002 from Leeds. Do the math and then adjust that against inflation, how much it will cost today. And this was a club that was outspending almost everybody in the league at the time. So if we have to view things contextually, there would always be arguments that would favor one person over the other, depending on the agenda you are trying to push, right? So I get it.
Okay,
And
the agenda I'm trying to push is that Pep is not better than Jose Mourinho, Carlo Ancelotti, Jurgen Klopp.
Which is fine. You may have your reasons, and it would always be up for debate or argument, which is it is perfectly fine.
But yeah, forgive me. Let's get back into Pep's legacy. That's just me distracting from the conversation.
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned, Pep was if Pep was hypothetically Chelsea's manager for the past 10 years, it would have been the most decorated club in England. And this is to tell you how much he's changed the fortunes of Manchester City as a club forever. And this is a manager who, before coming into the Premier League, a lot of naysayers, as always. The English pride braggadocious. Oh, you can't do what you were doing in the previous leagues here. When he left Spain, you didn't choose to go anywhere. You went into a farmers league in Germany to coach the biggest team in Germany. So almost every time there were people who were trying to poke holes into his accomplishments. And he was like, okay, I'm going on a sabbatical. After my sabbatical, I'm making a decision. He made a decision, and the rest is history. So Man City, as we know it today, yes, some coaches have come and go. Pellegrini, Mancini, but you ask yourself, was there consistency in performance? There was not. Because if Pep, and I can say this maybe for a fact, and I won't say this for a fact, but I can argue strongly that if Pep was around during the Leicester City period, they won't win it. Leicester City won't win it. Though
that season that Leicester won, if Pep was there,
they won't win it. This is an argument I'm willing to back.
No. I'm trying to just think about it, but yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
This is an argument I'm trying, and it is just to put things in context that the so-called managers that were winning before him were not as consistent. This man has done it. He essentially turned the league into a farmers league, and that is where people were like, because the one clip that has been going viral was the chairman of the PGMOL coming out to say they are trying their best to at least make a different club champion almost every 2 to 3 seasons, right? Because again, the whole thing is about marketing and then perception of how the league is, how competitive the league is. And there's a man who came and was just dog walking the league. This man was just dog walking the league as though like it was like a walk in the park for him, right? Winning 4 times in a row, winning with the highest level of points ever, winning with the highest goal scored. Like this, he just shattered records and then put all naysayers to bed, right? So
not me though, but okay.
Which is fine. Right? Which is very fine. If you can do it,
he
do
not
it.
Just won Champions League in 10 seasons.
He won. Champions League is very difficult to win. It's not an easy trophy to win.
Zidane.
Why is Zidane still not coaching?
Well, that's the thing I also say. This guy plays a beautiful strategic game. When you get fired or you're in a position like that, different managers, look how many times Carlo Ancelotti has gotten fired. It's not necessarily your decision to stay in a team that long. Pep has been fortunate enough to have the backers that he has had at Man City and lasted as long. It's not always only due to lack of success that happens. So I would say that, but in terms of the Champions League debate, it wasn't that difficult for Zinedine Zidane. He kind of did that pretty.
No, again, yeah, Zizou did it. Zizou did it, and he's etched in history forever, right? Yeah. But the question also now becomes, why is Zizou picking and choosing? Because if Zizou was indeed very convinced about the fundamentals of his coaching ability, he would still be testing himself at the top level. He's still on sabbatical. I think he's waiting for the French national team. And everybody would say, okay, this is one of the most talented French teams of all time. There's talent oozing everywhere on the pitch. So Zizou coming in to coach doesn't look out of place, given, of course, the pedigree he now has for himself, having won the Champions League in record numbers back to back, and something nobody has done before. So this is now a perception Zizou has created about himself, that he only comes into special situations. He's not your average Joe who will be coaching any team, just like you mentioned with Ancelotti coaching Everton at some point, right? So I get that bit, but back to topic. Man City this season have had no business competing for the league. They had
Why not?
they had absolutely no business because this has been one of the worst Man City teams, and it's been getting worse for some time. And I think we even have in previous episodes had conversation about how they are going to cope given the departure of certain key players like Kevin
De
De Bruyne
Bruyne. Yeah.
at some point, right? And then when the season started, one thing people tend to overlook is a big part of Pep's system over maybe the past 2 to 3 seasons was centered around Rodri. So when Rodri got injured, you could tell that they are going to struggle. He's tried repetitively to try to replace him. Kovacic hasn't been able to live up to the billing. Tijani Reinders has not been able to do it. So he's tried severally to try to replace Rodri in the middle. Bernardo Silva has been working like a dog just to cover enough blade like Rodri used to do for them at the base. So when he's missing such a key piece, and even on the attacking third, there isn't as much creativity maybe unless Cherky's breakout season this season for them. You could tell that the decline was not far off, and it was very evident when Ancelotti came in, won the league, and he came third because Ateta came second again, and he came third. So you could just tell the decline was happening, and then the nail was hitting the coffin this season when he tried to salvage it with the signing of Semenyo and Gehi in January. They were able to make a shout based on, again, Arsenal's ineptitude when it comes to January, February, March, April. They lose a lot of games. They tend to lose games around April. So it brought City in and gave an impression of a title race, but it was never close. It has never been close since the season started. And that's, as I said, it shouldn't have been this close, right? But then again, things happen. When you are going to win the league for your first time, that is in Arteta's case, and in Arsenal's case, 22 years, that belief and self-doubt would always creep in at certain points, as opposed to City who are habitual winners, knowing what that stage feels like and managing the pressure it comes with. So City this season, it has been a success for them. They won 2 domestic trophies, or they had a domestic double with the Carling Cup and then the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup and the FA Cup, and they came second in the league. I think it's a very befitting send off for Pep. I'm sure he would have loved to crown things with the league, but this Arsenal team were just up to task and they were able to get it over and done with in due time. So massive kudos to Pep. Many will argue that he is the greatest of all time, but others too would hold exception to that. And that is what geniuses give you. When you are not, the legacy is not contested, then it means you didn't leave an impact. So we'll have to give that to him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sure it's gonna lack a little bit of banter as well. Talking about Pep Guardiola, his strategies, his quotes, and also his success as well in the English
Yeah.
Premier League without him being there. So we're gonna go through some of the major teams here just to recap how the season is ending. Manchester United ended the season on a good note. I would say we had this conversation earlier in the season multiple times about how I thought how we thought obviously that without the Champions League, they or not playing the Champions League would help their chances play out well in the English Premier League. Seems to be the case. And as a result of ending the season on a high, I think they finished third position in the English Premier League. They are going to be retaining Michael Carrick. Just based off of how their season went, the fantastic year Bruno Fernandes had, breaking the assist record. What do you think about what I would call an expected season, in my opinion, for Manchester United? But what do you think about their decision to retain Michael Carrick going forward?
Yeah, I think in terms of the season, we all at least had a prediction that Manchester is likely going to do better than they've done in previous times. And it was good they struck the iron when it was hot with Amorim by letting him go and bringing in Carrick at some point in the season because they had enough material to make a push for a Champions League spot. And thankfully, the shift happened when Carrick came into the picture. And Manchester would call this, given how things have played out in previous seasons or in recent seasons, this has been a resounding success. And I'm not surprised that, again, as always, Bruno Fernandes was middle and center for almost everything good that happened for them because I've always mentioned, even in their hard times, almost everything good comes to Bruno Fernandes. And there's a reason why, if you look at my FPL, he's the only Manchester United player in my FPL for over the past 4 to 5 years. Because almost every time I watch United play, anything close to a goal,
Anything good.
because the rest were just a useless bunch of supporting cast. That anything good that would come out from anywhere, it had to go through him. And it's I'm glad he's had a rewarding season, because I think he's one of the few players that, from who you are listening from, you may think he's overrated, but in certain instances too, he doesn't get the flowers he deserves. And I'm glad at least this season has given him a bit of middle ground where people can clearly see that he's a very, very good player, and he's been an absolute fantastic addition to the Manchester United team, even in their hard times or the hard seasons they've had over the past few years. So Manchester has had a good season. They finished in the Champions League spot. And of course, playing once a week, you have no excuse. You have to do well. And thankfully, they were able to live up to the billing. And retaining Carrick, I think I've been an admirer of Carrick, even from his playing days. And it is no surprise that most of the so-called good managers, football managers who happen to have been ex-footballers, almost all of them come from the midfield. If you have to look at the current terrain, you look at the managers who were ex-players, almost all of them, especially the good ones, were all midfielders, maybe apart from Gattuso.
Is Gattuso a good coach?
That's what I'm saying, apart from Gattuso, because he's coaching just like he used to play. He's coaching just like he used to play. No sense.
I was glad Italy did not go for the World Cup.
You see, because when you look at it, Pep, Luis Enrique, Arteta himself, Xabi Alonso, these are all midfielders. And there's a thing with how midfielders see the game, because the C is from the center. And I even watched an interview with, I think, the Diary of a CEO.
Oh yeah, Stephen
Bartlett with Bruno Fernandes. And they gave Bruno Fernandes a board, and you could just tell how he sees the game from the center, right? So Carrick, again, back to Carrick, I liked him. I liked him in equal measure, just like I liked Mikel Obi, because I have an eye for at least players who people do not appreciate as much, but you can just tell their quality when they are on the ball. And it is no surprise that he was doing very, very well with Middlesbrough. Remember one time Chelsea played against Middlesbrough. It was one of these Carabao or FA Cup games, and we had a very, 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 very tough time. You could just tell Carrick had his imprint over the team. So I was not surprised when he came in and he was stringing results. I get it. People are comparing him to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and how things turned out for Solskjaer in the end, right? But then I believe workers are due their pay. If somebody comes in and turns things around, the least you can do is to reward them with confidence and backing and give them the chance. Again, that's why I said the synergy between management and then the playing staff or the coaching staff, not being in tandem, has been a lost recipe. And I am glad Arteta and Arsenal has provided an exception to the rule in this case. And hopefully Manchester can do that with Carrick, because I believe
not hopefully for me. No, not hopefully. They might be able to do it, but I revel. I'm extremely very pleased as a sports fan to watch them continuously dysfunctionally.
Of course.
Yeah, go ahead. I love the fact that you're a very, very objective pundit. Out there giving analysis from a place of goodwill. As I said, I had people like following up on our show, commenting, talking about if you want to be a great analyst, you have to be unbiased. I'm like, very good. Good for you guys that watch. But so I just wanted to put that there. And I love the fact that you wish them so well. And with a great, but okay.
Yeah, because I am saying that because I want to take a swipe at Cleric. Cleric.
Okay. We'll get to.
It is a trap. It is a trap for Cleric. Right. So that is where I'm coming to. But then again, bottom line is, in principle, this man has done an amazing job and he's been rewarded accordingly. So let's see how he's now going to manage the workload. Because again, you're now going into a different terrain in his entire coaching career, playing multiple tournaments consistently over the course of a season. How is he going to manage his playing body and still grind out results? We leave that to him, and whether the United management will be patient enough to still stick by him if things don't go as planned. But from historical antecedents, it looks like that is not going to be the case, but we have to wait and see.
Yeah. Just a few comments on Manchester United before I move on. Since you brought up Cleric, we're going to head to Chelsea soon. Mm-hmm. The one thing I would say is that I'm glad that they hired Michael Carrick. The one thing every year Manchester United keeps themselves from progressing. It's another year to, have some fun watching the whole team and fans in absolute misery in Manchester United. So I think why I say that is that I think Manchester United, Amorim was not a good coach. I would have loved to see Amorim stay as the manager of Manchester United because, that's just what I love to do. I wouldn't want I'm actually concerned about Carrick. That's the thing. So I would have loved to see Amorim. But the one thing I'm not as concern as well with the performance to end the year is that sometimes, when you're going from something really bad, average can look really good.
That is true.
I thought Manchester United should be a top 3 team at the beginning of the season. I just thought that not because I want them to be, but because just objectively looking at the team, the moves that they made with bringing in Cunha, Mbeumo, the signings they did, I just thought this team was a top 3 team, not having the distraction of Europe. Amorim is so bad that it didn't seem like that. And then Michael Carrick makes top 3 look like a massive season outside of the regular expectation going into the year. So my own observation is Carrick has always been a player that amazes me, because when I look back at the comments Sir Alex Ferguson brought on other fans of English Premier League teams as a coach, Carrick was always one player in the midfield that overperformed, in my opinion. I always watched the games and I couldn't just see the pillow in Carrick. But it seemed like pillow performances. Like it's like the performance tells you in the results, but you're watching him play and you're looking for what is he doing in this game that's so impactful. Maybe it's just my eyes and my inability to figure it out completely, but I think he was a terrific player for his skill set.
Oh, absolutely.
Player. And one thing I always give players like that is if you cannot see the skill popping out of the television, that means they do a whole lot of work in the background, practice, being precise at what they do, reading the game from a different level. So I think Carrick is probably that kind of player and coach, and just in general has had to do more with less. And usually those are my type of guys. Just do more with less, in my opinion. That's really what I'm looking for. If you're expected to be third, I want you to be second. If you're expected to be first, I want you to win comfortably. Like just do more than you're expected to do. If I'm expected to go out this morning and I'm feeling good and I walk 1 kilometer, now I just walked 1 kilometer. I want to go 10 kilometers and feel like I did more. I pushed myself a little bit more than what would be just a regular stroll in the park. So those are my kind of guys. So I really like Carrick. But one thing I would say as well is I don't know if the evaluation of Carrick was from a place of we've seen something great here, right? Other than the fact that the team, in my opinion, was good enough and he did more than enough. And I think Carrick is that kind of guy that I don't expect him to like completely bottom out, but do we know if he really has the absolute like ability to get them over the top? So we'll see. I'm not an anti-Carrick guy at all. But at the same time, I wasn't looking at Man U and be like, they brought in Thomas Tuchel and be like, oh, I think Tuchel is a good coach. That kind of thing. I wasn't feeling like that, at least in my opinion as well. But we'll see how Manchester United goes. Now we're going to go to Clearlake Capital and we're going to go to Chelsea because we've gone a lot into it. But let's get into Chelsea before we end with Liverpool for this Premier League recap for the 2025-2026 season. Let's talk about Chelsea. So Chelsea ends the season in what many would consider a disappointing season. For whatever reason, they fire Enzo Maresca. Not a huge fan of it, but as we kind of talked a little earlier, firings are not all about performance. There's a whole lot of people that we don't know their names, that has different agendas, that have big egos, that make those decisions. The one thing that I've always had as a policy is that one thing that happens is we watch the game, but in general, human beings make the decisions and sometimes you don't even know who they are. So that's one thing. As Maresca left, I don't think it means a lot about, in my opinion, about him as a coach. But we're now looking at Xabi Alonso, Chelsea snagging him early before maybe Liverpool did. So what do you think about what Clearlake Capital is doing, how Chelsea's season went, and Xabi Alonso's chance to be successful at Chelsea?
Well, I think as you mentioned, it was a disaster season. Disaster, a shameful disaster. And unfortunately, every Chelsea fan watching, I'm sorry, but it is not going to get any better. Alonso will be frustrated out, just like Maresca was frustrated out. What is happening is just a classic, far-removed American business tycoon from the private equity sector coming in and thinking that they can fix things that are not broken. And this has been the bane of the Chelsea team from the day the English government frustrated Abramovich to sell to when these guys came in. And I say this to say, if you've spent $2 billion and you are 10th after 4 years, under normal circumstance, which business person would want to pour $2 billion down the drain without any accountability? We have almost 5 sporting directors. None of them have been fired. They keep giving themselves renewed contracts.
It's called It's called tax manipulation and investment fund manipulations, portfolio management. But anyway, go ahead.
So this speaks to why I'm saying there was a trend. One thing I hate in my life is people who think they can insult my intelligence. I hate it. If you are a stupid person, be a stupid person and see me as such. So I know you see me as such. But don't be playing in my face and be thinking that I'm not wise enough to catch up to what you are doing. I hate that thing. And this is what Clear Lake has been doing since they came. Almost every time they make stupid decisions and it translates into results on the pitch, would bring out a rumor. Chelsea going to buy this, Chelsea going to sign this. And then they end up bringing a 17-year-old boy into the team for $40 million on an 8-year contract. And you keep doing the same thing over and over and you're expecting a different result. The same thing happened this season when Chelsea came 10th. Under normal circumstances, heads should roll. AC Milan failed to qualify for the UEFA Champions League. Everybody at the top management level resigned, including the coach.
I think 4 top people, including the coach,
all of
right?
them out. Because that is what an elite club is. You don't come in, we give you targets to hit. You don't hit them and you still keep your job. Where does that work? It doesn't work anywhere.
Only in Chelsea, though.
The only exception, again, as I mentioned, was Arsenal. But Arsenal, there were 2 constants. There's Arteta, and then there is the management. There was Edu at some point, who was the sporting director. He left for Nottingham Forest. Beta King, and he has a relationship with Beta, so they talk and then they get the signings he needs. How do you talk to 5 sporting directors? How are decisions going to be made? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So when Chelsea came 10th, and under normal circumstances, there were so many articles that were being written by different journalists bashing them. What did they do? Let's paper the cracks quickly. Let's hire somebody so we can appease the fans because they are stupid. They are stupid that they'll be happy with the crumbs that we are giving them. And that is the fate that has been dealt to Xabi Alonso. It pains me that he chose this job. It pains me so much. Because they're like, oh, we have changed. This is no longer a coach. This is the manager. My friend, I am not a fool. That's what I'm saying. I am not a fool. Don't do that. Don't do that. If because the person who came in, or the biggest shareholder, clearly 60%, Egbali went on a portal. I've gone off Chelsea's season, but I'm talking about the whole rot in the Chelsea team. Went on a podcast, but I think it was a forum. And this man says he wants to model after Brighton. So this person has given you his intent. The logic here is if you win, it is an add-on. But what I'm looking for is what I'm going to do.
Buy and sell players.
And that is how things are playing out. That is why heads are not rolling. Because how can you come 10th, you spend 2 billion, and you still have to rebuild? How? Like, where does that happen? Nowhere. And you walked into a club that was 0 debt, 0. It was wiped off. There was no debt. And you still managed any business school. It pains me that I've done that with my degree now. But this should be a classic case study of how not to run a business.
But if you're running it in venture capital, debt is gold.
That is gold.
Not for fans of a team.
No, of course. That is gold. I get it. But one thing about venture capitals to have, no, not even venture capital, because they are private equity.
Yeah, they are private equity.
The thing about private equity is more often than not, they ruin businesses than fix them.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
In this case, you didn't come to fix a business that is disgruntled. You came in largely because there was a connivance by the government to force the hands of the owner to sell. And this owner gave conditions. Say, I'm wiping off every debt. We are starting from a clean slate. You can't sell the club within 10 years. You have to spend X or Y amounts. You agreed on all these things. Why not get the best of the best in the business to help you run the business, right? Now, the value at which you bought the club, around 2 billion. If you have to sell the club, how are you going to sell it? You perhaps don't even sell at a profit because the outfit, yes, Chelsea is an attractive brand globally, but you're not performing. And it doesn't take too long for teams to go down the drain. Look at AC Milan now. Look at Juventus. These are stalwarts when it comes to the game of football, European football. These are AC Milan is a 7-time Champions League winner. And today they have to convince a Bournemouth coach to come and coach them. Bournemouth. They have to give Andoni Raiola a reason why he should leave Bournemouth to come and coach them. That should tell you how the mighty can fall. Body is beyond falling. You are not too big to not fall. Look at Manchester United. Look at how they've been struggling since Ferguson left. So it should tell you that how you've taken the club and where you're likely going to have it positioned before you try to sell. You may not even make a profit, or you may not even make the so-called money you want to make if it's time to sell, unless maybe you're selling to a buyer who is an emotional buyer and just loves the game. Case in point, an Arab seller or an Arab buyer who will just buy for the game. Chelsea is in a dire situation, and it pains me because Xabi Alonso is a fine coach. He has shown us from Leverkusen to even his time at Madrid. He had a 73% win rate at Real Madrid. And you could tell they were having an identity of how to play. And he's walked into this mess of a system. It is most likely that he will do his part, but then he'll be frustrated out like Maesca was frustrated out. And that is what pains me, because the same actors or the constant denomination that exists over the past 4 years are still there. And that shows me that they are not willing to do anything to change. They're just papering the cracks just to keep people from not talking too much about how they are not doing too well as a management. So Chelsea is in a very, very bad place, unfortunately. And from how things look, I don't see things working going forward unless there's a drastic change, and I don't see that happening anytime soon.
Yeah, we're gonna just move forward. I feel the same way. The thing with Chelsea is earlier in this podcast, we talked about goals, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is you can have your goals, but the people with their hand on the pulse are the people that determines what the actual goals are, the people that actually call the shots and make the decisions. The reason I don't talk too much about supporting Chelsea or anything like that is because I was forced out of Chelsea also by the British government. I have been forced out of Chelsea. As difficult as it was for Roman Abramovich to leave Chelsea behind, it's also very difficult for me. But some things you also, the moment they forced out Roman Abramovich, he was the man that I had the goals that I wanted for
You're
Chelsea.
aligned with.
They forced him out, they forced me out. But just like a Roman Abramovich, wherever he is, as he said, hoping to leave Chelsea in a good place, I always look for Chelsea to be in a good place as well. But just as I cannot control clearly capital and their goals that are not my obvious goals with Chelsea, they are getting and doing what they have to do based on their goals. Anybody that does not understand that the goals of the Chelsea management at the moment, all this could always change, is exactly how it is playing out, will not understand the fact that these people do not care as much about winning, probably have absolutely no idea how soccer works anyway, and they're trying to flex portfolios in Chelsea, 8-year contracts, flipping players, private equity, you come in, you rip the whole thing apart, you sell it for parts, you make some profit, you boost it up, you market it, you whatever. It's exactly what's going on with Chelsea. That's not what I really came into or what I actually is the goal that I want from a team that I support. We're going to go to the final two before we wrap up this Premier League wrap up. So we're going to go quickly. And Slot out from Liverpool. Was that shocking to you? And what do you expect from Liverpool going forward?
I think Ancelot's departure was, the writings were on the wall, because given how much, again, that is what I said. And it also speaks to the points you made. The standards. What are the expectations and what is being delivered? A club can spend 500 million in one window and be playing like how Liverpool played this past season. It is unacceptable. On the other hand, too, he had some credit in the bank. He has won the league in his first season, so if anything, perhaps he should have given another season to remedy the situation. That is, if there's anything to be remedied. At least it looks like there's a lot to be remedied. But then again, there are other factors at play. And as soon as a player of Mohamed Salah's magnitude comes out to speak against you in the open, your days are numbered. And evidently, or as we can all see now, he's been given the kick out of the club. I think he's a fine manager. I won't take that from him, but I don't think he's as elite as his earlier success. I think he's a victim of his own success, because had he come in and then came second, third, or even fourth in his first season, right, and then he made the signings he made this season, but I've had enough room in the bank to exert his authority as much as he wants. But in this case, the opposite was true, where winning happened very soon and expectations rose with it. But then you don't have Salah on the team anymore, or you don't have him at his optimal best anymore. And you were given a war chest to bring in replacements. One was going very well for you, Eketike, until he got injured. But the other one has been, the two record signings have been abysmal. Florian Wirtz has been fit, but he's been abysmal for the reputation he came into the league with. And then Isak has spent more time in the hospital than on the pitch. So there's just things just not working out the way he wants. Milos Kekes hasn't hit the ground running as we all thought it was going to happen for him. Jeremy Frimpong has been a disappointment as well. So it looks like almost all his signings, maybe apart from Eketike until he got injured, have been below par. And when such things happen, heads must roll. And whose head is on the chopping board first? Almost always it is the manager. And he got the cut in this case, unfortunately. But I'm sure he can look back with so much pride, having spent 2 years in England and won the Premier League. It would be on his resume forever, and the kinds of jobs he's likely going to take from here going forward would be at a certain threshold going forward because of the reputation he's built for himself with the Liverpool job and even his time at Feyenoord as well.
Yeah. I'm somebody that thinks that one thing, as I've established a little bit, is coming in and performing under tough circumstances. I think he did that in his first year. Obviously, people will always compete with you. This year, losing Mo Salah as an ally, it's very tough to come out of that. Like we talked about Pep Guardiola staying for 10 years and Zidane not staying. Those are the kind of factors when you look at a team like Madrid where the players run the team and stuff.
Yeah.
You can argue that someone like Mo Salah, you need him on your side
Yeah.
all the time as well. So it's just on untenable position that he kind of found himself this year moving forward. Couple more things. I'm just going to summarize this and we're going to go into the Champions League. Tottenham Hotspur escaped relegation on the last day, brought in Roberto De Servi, where he won 2 out of the last 4 games or 5 games, and that was supposed to be enough to save them. I'm like, even with Roberto De Servi with a big contract, they couldn't even win draw. It almost felt like Wolves had a better record going to the end of the year. Spurs have a lot of upper management things to actually fix. It's good that they're still in the Premier League, but I thought it would have been a really crazy, laughing, incredible thing to talk about a team like Spurs going to relegation as a proof of horrible management at the top. But I'm going to get you before we round up here. Just quickly, PSG at back-to-back European champions, beating Arsenal in the UEFA Champions League final. We had several conversations about the Champions League over the course of the season.
Yeah.
We both did like Bayern Munich a lot. We kind of liked Barcelona as well during the season on the Champions League. Bayern Munich lost to PSG. My God, that first game was a thrilling game. Let me know what you think about the Champions League finals and Luis Enrique winning the Champions League for a second straight year. No Neymar, no Messi, no Mbappe as well. What do you think about the Champions League final as we round up?
Yeah, so I'm sorry to the viewers and to yourself. I'll go slightly off tangent, just again to express my discontent for clearly, because
let's do it.
That was when a coach of Enrique's magnitude uses his own pocket money to buy plane tickets, prepare a PowerPoint, flies all the way to England to do a presentation to you and these so-called sporting directors that you've hired. And you tell me that he wasn't good enough. He didn't fit the vision of where you were going.
The vision was not winning.
That alone should tell you the state of where the club is likely going to go in the next 10 years before they can sell contractually or according to the law or what they signed. That was again on the side. Enrique. I have always had a greater admiration for Enrique. And I wasn't surprised with how things have turned out for him because I've always seen him as one of the kinds of coaches that I like. Put yourself out there, put yourself in the grinder. It doesn't work, come back again. This guy coached Barcelona, MSN, produced one of the most lethal front three ever in the game's history. Won the treble, won trophies. What did he do? He moved and then tried to test things out with Celta Vigo. It didn't work. He went to the Spanish national team. It didn't play out too well for him. So that is when people began to doubt whether he was an elite coach or not. And I was like, no, even if you look at the Spanish team that he coached and you look at how he was able to bring the young kids together and how he was able to stamp his authority on the team, this is the kind of coach you need in the modern time, because nowadays, if you want your team to thrive, the coach should be the superstar. Everybody is subordinate to the coach. And that is one thing I give Arteta credits for. He came in, he was like, no, Aubameyang out. Lacazette out. You people have too much ego for what I want to do here. And when everybody came under his tutelage, we are now seeing the results. The same is true for Pep. And there's a reason why Madrid is even trying to go back for Mourinho again. The coach has to be the front and center. Everybody else should come under the shadow of how elite the manager is. And it was very evident. He moved to PSG first season. He had the challenges with Mbappe. And what did he say in one of the interviews? He says they are going to do better now that Mbappe is not on the team than when he was. And the proof is in the pudding now. He almost won 7 trophies last season, had not been for Chelsea. He almost won 7 trophies. Almost everything that came in his way, he cleared it. This season, it is evident. This is, again, one of the coaches that we barely talk about, but and I'm glad it is happening this way for him because I've always admired his game. He belongs to the very, very top. This is his 3rd time winning it. So he's now surpassed Mourinho in the same brackets as Pep. And from how this PSG team is set up and their age, it is not about the personnel. It is about who is on the touchline. Because when Donnarumma left, we were like, oh, would it be? You brought so far not. So he built systems, and that played out on the day. Arteta, again, people will talk about how Arsenal showed up on the day. One thing I want to tell our viewers, finals are won, finals are not played. And that is what Arteta went into the game to do.
In my opinion, just to break short, fantastic tactics from Mateta.
That is what he went there to do.
Four defensive kind of center backs, in my opinion, not any cerebral wingers. You got Miles Kelly playing a real sweeper position, absolutely tactically genius. PSG was not the usual PSG. They have fantastic coaching as well. So
because the most lethal attack in this season, even in all time, because it's called 45 goals or 46 goals, the most lethal attack in the Champions League met the best defense. So it had to play out as we expected it to play out, and it did on the day. The challenge with Arteta's tactics is if it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you take the criticisms it comes with. So I get how people are bashing him for not being slightly adventurous, even when the likes of Dembele and Kvaratskhelia were taken out, right? But everything still, it went down to penalties. And when it gets down to penalties, it is not in your hands anymore. Unfortunately, a lot of things come into play. Even your best kickers can miss it. 1996, Roberto Baggio, till date, cries about that. 2010, Ghana versus Uruguay. Asamoah skied it.
Hey, yes,
right? So,
come on, come on. There are things we are trying to forget. Our therapists are telling us blocks some things so that we can watch this World Cup. Come on, Danny.
No, so that's what I'm saying. No, that's what I'm saying. It's all, when it comes down to penalties, it is out of your hands, unfortunately. Your best kickers on the day can sometimes, based on multiple factors happening at the time of kicking the ball, or at the time when the referee whistles for the kick to be played, a lot happens. So I give Arteta his credit. That is the most he could do on the day. Again, the arguments was that, okay, his dangerous arsenals are out, which was Kvaratskhelia, Due played all through. Kvaratskhelia, Dembele. So attack them a little. But it didn't happen. Everything went down to penalties. But then again, it wasn't a final. I would say I was overly enthusiastic to watch because I knew how it would one team will have the ball, the other won't. And more often than not, such finals are not the most pleasurable to watch as a neutral. But then again, I was against. So anything I was seeing, I liked it because I didn't want Arsenal to win.
I am a huge fan of watching soccer from a tactical perspective. And for me personally, I just as much as I enjoyed the 5-4 game between Bayern Munich, and so many people enjoyed that as well. I loved the finals. I loved the final. The moment I saw the team sheet for Arsenal, I was like, got Hincapié and Mosquera on the right, and you got Miles Lewis Kelly in midfield instead of Zubimendi.
And Odegaard
I love this. I love the chess being played here. I love each manager knowing exactly their job, knowing their strengths, knowing their weaknesses, knowing that Miles Kelly's speed and physicality needs to come on the counter attack to help Mosquera. And Mosquera cannot be easily beaten one-on-one. I will not forget his defensive role, the way your regular backs might do, because if you do, Vara, Scalia is going to actually have you for lunch. So I think for me, it was my kind of game. It's not just the put players out there to just go play. It was the kind of game I saw. I'm like, the coaches are thinking deeply about these finals. And again, the patience from Luis Enrique when they got down 1-0 needs to be studied. Like some people panic, the defense is, come on, you just know what you're doing, allow the game to play out. But yeah.
I think this was a situation of two coaches knowing their strengths, as you rightly mentioned, and wanting to see their strengths play out on the field. When you listen to the post-game interviews from Vitinha, he was like, they knew what they were likely going to face, and they had to be very, very patient when they went one goal down. Because
that patience is underrated in terms of what you want to do,
Because if you lose your shape, that is it. You concede more. And a classic example was the Club World Cup final between PSG and Chelsea. When they were on a high, they had beaten Bayern Munich, beaten Madrid 4 goals, like they were on a high. They won the Champions League. So they came in, yes, perhaps they would respect their opponent to an extent, but then there was an air of superiority about how they played. So they didn't have the grounding to be humble to say, okay, let's play these people as co-equals. And they got surprised eventually, right? So I'm sure that was even part of the logic behind how they approached this game too. That, okay, we are goal down. Okay, they'll play a low block, but let's keep knocking. And let's not knock with our backs by leaving our backs bare, because if we have to leave our backs bare, they can hit us on the counter. And more often than not, that is how things play out. If one team is going to play more on the defensive end. The arsenal they have is to hit you on the break, right? So still maintain your shape and keep knocking. Eventually, something will happen. And one thing I've loved about this PSG team is yes, they have a tactician on the bench, but then the individual quality also is just it's oozing because Kvaratskhelia had a poor first half because he was doubled, sometimes even tripled. When he tries to dribble Mosquera, Saka is there. When they try, Lewis Kelly sometimes drops in to support as well. So he was finding it hard to break them down. And that is the beauty of a coach who knows he's at war and how to send his troops out and map out how things should play out. Things were playing out very well for them, but then again, these games are about moments. When you take your eye off slightly, that is where the Champions League final become a Champions League final. Things happen, and when you're playing against players with the kind of quality that the PSG front line has, defending is not enough. You have to be very attentive too. And sadly, that didn't play out with Mosquera, and then he conceded the penalty, and then things just went downhill from there in terms of how the game played out. Because I think some people even argue that had the goal come later, there was absolutely no way PSG was going to equalize.
Yeah.
But you can't defend from the 6th minute till the end. It's a tall order to do. So you are bound to make mistakes at some point.
If there was any team that could do it, I think Arsenal was that team. This
They were the
PSG
only
team
ones, actually.
this PSG team is an offensive juggernaut.
Yes.
Kvaratskhelia is an absolute nightmare. Even that Mosquera, that penalty was just a moment. I know it's a penalty, but it's kind of the kind of things that you can describe as a moment of brilliance.
That is what I'm saying. This game is about moments and individual brilliance.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Kvaratskhelia tried to have multiple moments, and for the most part,
wasn't working.
Mosquera and the rest shut him down, but there was just that one moment anyway, with blood in his shin and all that. Absolutely incredible moment. So yeah, we're gonna wrap up here. We're gonna just so it's been a beautiful season. It's a recap here on the City Dice Network. I want to shout out to everybody following the channel. We're at 5,000 subscribers.
Wow.
So I appreciate everyone that actually hits that subscribe button, takes the time to watch. It's greatly appreciated. I know the content is not always every week, but for any times you see the content on here, I appreciate everyone that takes any kind of time to watch, subscribe, share, like, comment as well. So we're going to round it up here. And the World Cup is kind of on the way. For Nigerian fans, my people, it happen.
You know where to come.
My brothers, Danny.
You should fast and pray for us, I beg. Don't waste your energy. Pray. We can give you jersey. We have extra jerseys for you.
I have been looking for who will recruit me. I've been looking for who will recruit me. That's
Come
the only
to Toronto. Let's watch match against Panama.
We're both here in Canada. You don't even know how demoralizing it is for Nigeria not to be in this World Cup. But for all my other African brothers and every other person enjoying the World Cup, I'll be cheering for them as well in this World Cup as well. Anyway, to everyone that also watches, any final words, Danny, before we head out from this episode?
No, final words. Again, as you mentioned, I would want to thank everybody for tuning in, watching. For those who are able to comment, thank you. For those who are not as well, thank you for still watching. The aim behind having these kinds of conversations is to, again, foster our knowledge. So we may not know it all, but we just happen to be in front of the cameras. So if you have any objectionable decisions, not objectionable thoughts, please, you can put that in the comments and we're more than happy to address them over time. But again, thank you all for subscribing and then watching. Keep putting your post notifications on. And whenever I say there's an upload, please, as always, give it a watch, comment, share. And maybe one day we'll even have a live show where we can
hopefully we get that done where we can have more. I would kind of look at it as a watch along more.
Yes.
Interactive.
Maybe this World Cup, you never know.
Yeah, who knows. More interactive sections where people can actually drop their comment and we can live react and stuff like that. Anyway, for everybody on here, if you have gotten to this part of this episode under any circumstance, I truly appreciate you. Most people don't get here. 99% of people don't get to the end. So I appreciate anybody that got here. Don't forget, check out the social media channels as well. City Dice Sports. Danny as well is in social media. You can check that out as well for if you want to follow him as well. It's something I enjoy doing, and I hope you all also enjoy listening to the show as well. I want you to participate in the channel. Thank you so much, Danny. Until next time, peace all.